Hi guys, welcome back to the Clack Shack. I was just kidding. It ain't that cold in here. It is out there, but it's not in here. All right guys, I do have a little toboggan head, so y'all gonna have to get over that today. This is gonna be my fashion statement. But it is very cold outside. Alabama is seeing temperatures that we're not supposed to see here. I woke up this morning, it was like 14 degrees outside. Of course, I've been burning through my firewood. So first thing this morning, I was off to go collect some more firewood for some down trees that I've had that I've just been letting them sit in the woods and dry. So I took my little buggy up there and got me a load of firewood. In here now in the shop, finally got it warm enough that it's bearable and I can feel my fingers while I'm working. So come up with a project for today because, you know, it is Christmas Eve and I don't have any orders or anything to do, so now's the time that I get to do creative things that I want to do for me, or in this case for my wife. So I've got my dog crate here, and y'all, I don't think you've met the two dogs yet, but I have two German Shepherds. One is Max, who's a certified canine. He does narcotics detection, tracking, and of course he protects me when needed. And then I have another one who's just more or less my guard dog. Well, she's a little more rambunctious and not as well mannered as Max is. So Rogue has to stay in a crate, and especially right now while it's so cold, they like to come in and hang out for a little while and then go back out, and they have this whole scratching at the door thing down to a science. So we've been sitting there, and my wife has mentioned that the dog crate just kind of doesn't fit in with the industrial look of the dog crate with the rest of the living room. So we're going to dress this thing up and make it look presentable so that my wife will quit fussing at me about the way it looks. Try to give it more of a rustic appearance rather than the industrial wire it's got going on. So I went and got me a few of my pine boards that I use on my stove covers out, and we'll be throwing that together. All right, so the first step is to figure out exactly how I want to do this. The easy money is on making it go this way with the boards. It's 42 inches, so I could easily, I'm gonna need to add about an extra 3/4 because I do plan on putting like a little catch rail around it to keep it from falling off. So that's gonna be, I'm gonna say 42 and a half. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut the boards at about 44 inches. That should give me plenty. It'll give me enough to square the ends off if I need to. So 44 inches on those. And the width on this thing is 28 inches. All right, I think I came up with a workable design to keep from wasting too much material on this job. I hate to cut down another board just because all I have left in the back here is there is literally, with a little bit of hangover in the front for a little trim piece, there's literally 1 inch of space back here in the back. So I think I'm gonna come up with something different, maybe even putting like a design type piece up here against the back of that, because this is the side that's going to be toward the wall anyway. So I think that's going to be my go. I think that's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to go ahead and get the table cleaned off where I can move these boards over there, and I think I'm just going to glue them as is. Normally I would rip these on the table saw to make sure the edges are true, but they look pretty good. So I think today, because I'm trying not to drop a whole lot of materials on this, I think I'm just going to go ahead and go with it like that, more of a rustic look. My computer desk that I built has gapping and spacing between the woods as well on the back and stuff, so I think it'll flow better that way anyway. So we're going to go forward and do it that way. All right, guys, the next part is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to be putting this thing together with biscuits. Those help keep the boards even and keep it from twisting and that type of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the boards. I've got them laid out in the configuration that I want them. I'm trying to keep some of the knots, you know, moved around. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to put this darker heart piece of wood in the middle, since it's kind of the odd man out today. And I'm going to kind of try to make that look the way I want it to look before I put it together. So that's going to be the way it's going to go. I'm going to have this wider board here, wider board there, and then the board with a lot of heart in the middle. And I'm going to take my square, and I'm basically just going down through here and marking these boards so that they're aligned on the location that I want to put the biscuits. And this is very similar to how I do my stove covers. It's the exact procedure. Normally I would, however, trim these up on the table saw, but for this build, I'm going to forego that because my material is I'm going to waste some material if I do that. But the biscuit machine, basically what putting biscuits in here does, for those of you that may not be familiar, is you basically are taking wood that is not tongue and groove and giving it some of the advantages of a tongue and groove, because you're putting little wafers of wood in here so that these boards can kind of pull on each other instead of, you know, doing their own thing. And it also helps with the glue because you get these nice little pockets and these nice little wafers that are glued into these holes that help hold everything together. Now stand this guy up and just do the glue on it while the other one stays together. And I'm sure I'm doing this wrong. Somebody will point it out to me. All right, so that's going to be the top. Once this dries, what I'll do is I'll come back, I'll run a straight edge down both sides. I'm going to square that up, make sure it's absolutely square, and then it'll be just some sanding, and I've got to add some more hardware to the bottom, because rather than putting the straps up top, what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to use pieces of the 1x going down so that this thing just kind of sits on top of the kennel, using basically the kennel as the legs and the side supports for the structure. And that'll give me like a tabletop for the top of it, so that it can be something useful rather than just a wire crate. All right, guys, I got the design figured out finally. I wound up going with a piece of 3/4 upright on both ends, and then I've got 3 panels, 3 boards made into a panel going across the top, and then I trimmed the front out with another piece of 3/4 material that I had, and I brought it down as far as I could and still allow room for the door to open and close unimpeded. So now I'm going to take it over. I just got to get it sanded down real good. I'm going to probably do a little engrave on it. I just hadn't figured out what yet. All right, guys, I got it sanded down. Try to come up with a graphic. I'm going to put me a graphic on here just to give it a little character in case the wife doesn't have it covered up with a tablecloth or whatever. But I'm going to be putting that down in this area, I believe. I thought about putting it centered, but where this sits, I think I'd be better off just to put me a little, kind of angle it right here on the side maybe. But in case I move it, you know, the front's always a safe bet in case I move it. So we'll figure that out, but I'm gonna get that designed. I'm gonna go ahead and measure and mark the center of my engrave, and then I'll be getting the X tool over here to get this started and hopefully get it engraved. All right, guys, I got my jig out and I've got it secured to the piece. I wound up sliding the machine back as far as I could and still just have maybe half of the legs touching on this end just to support the machine. My engrave, I measured in from the edges and down up from the bottom and kind of picked a spot for my engrave. Because it's so close to the edge of material, I don't want to risk not having enough room down here. So what I'm going to wind up doing is I'm going to change, instead of starting from the center of the burn, I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to start at the bottom I should have more than enough room there for the engraved to go. Mo better. All right. And just to make sure I get a nice deep burn on this, I'm going to be running it at 40 millimeters per second, 100% output. All right, guys, I got the burn started. Luckily, I got everything lined up. It had me a little discombobulated having my machine upside down like that. I almost messed up and did it the wrong way. This is the front of the machine, or the front of the kennel. So when you're standing here, I want it readable from the front, and I almost had it upside down. But luckily, because when I tried to frame it, it slammed the back here and kind of gave me a little heads up. And that's one more reason why I say frame before you start to burn. Because if that had been on a burn, it would have caused some nasty lines and caused me to have to do a lot more sanding. So I got lucky on that one. I think that's going to be a cool addition to it. But I'm going to let that finish. Once it finishes, I'm going to touch it up if needed with a little bit of sandpaper, just in case I have any yellowing around it. All right, so I'm going to turn this around where you can see what we got. This was my design that I decided to go with. And I think it turned out pretty well. All right, guys, got her done. That's gonna be the kennel topper. And give me just a minute, I'm gonna put it in place so you can see what it looks like. All right, guys, there it is, engraved and in place on the kennel. I think my wife's gonna like that because she's always complaining about the dog hair. So now when she's vacuuming and she says this dog hair, she'll be corrected. It's not dog hair, it's fur fatty. So, kind of anxious to see what it looks like in the house. All right, guys, I got the kennel dropped in, got it in the house. The wife was a little amused with the text, but Rogue was happy with her new little habitat for her kennel. And the wife did say it looked a lot better, and I'm gonna drop some pictures up here so you can see them of the bed, how it looks. You know, everything's put together, got it put in the house, and then a little close up of my friend Rogue there. Like I said, she's a family guard dog, and she doesn't really have a job. She's kind of the stay-at-home mom. She's raised a couple of litters of puppies before, but not quite a while now. So, but everybody's happy. I'm staying warm out here. As you can see, the fan is still spinning, which means currently we still are producing heat, but it's getting dark, and probably fixing to take a turn for the worse. I'm going to look at, trying to get those things marketed and start selling some of those. I know there's a lot of pet owners this time of year. They've got the kennels in the houses, and if your wives or their wives are like mine, that kennel just is not very attractive. This kind of helps take the edges off of that and make it a usable space. I have made them for other people before and sold them, and they seem pretty happy with it. So this is version 2. Version 1 was built slightly different. I've improved upon the design, but it works, and it works well. So until next time, guys, as always, stay safe and have a good day.